Okay. So hi everyone, I'm Tauan, or Tau as a shortening form. And I have been starting these new projects lately, more related to the art world and with a feet on the technology as well. And I'm really striving to combine these things, and this project has appeared in front of me as like as an amazing option to try these ideas out and to collaborate with everyone. And I will make a very simple slide, but it should be able to say the things I would like to say. And first, I wanted to put some text here, but when you talk about dreams, I don't think that there's so much you can write. It's more, it can be bypassed, the writing phase, and actually be spoken. And as a proper oral tradition that comes from somewhere within, somewhere unknown. It's an energy, an unknown energy that you take it and then you merge with it and transform it to bring it to consciousness. And this is a process that I've been looking at, that I've read a bit in Carl Jung's Joseph Campbell, and then I started to get inspired of it and use these processes within my own explorations. Normally I have a dream of something, I see something fascinates me, or something stresses me, or something is not right in one specific thing, and I will go and look at it further and learn a bit about it, incorporate it, and going further. And in this way it has led me to transverse a quite diverse career so far. Like, started in very not typical places, and then changed quite fast. Every 3 years I'm doing totally kind of new things, but always with the base of what I've learned before. So this dream seeking, this form, this circular shape that you bring something from the unknown world, you cross a threshold to the unknown, then you gather some energies, you make peace with those energies, you transform them, and then you bring it back to what you know, and then this process can go further and further. And the last, like, since I've been curious about technology and curious about the world in general, these two things were always very in common for me. Technology and the human aspect was totally linked, maybe because I also grew up in the 90s and all of us kind of have a similar sort of experience in that, but these projects were merging together. And it's always been really intriguing to me how they merge, and how will this optimally benefit us rather than disrupt totally our way of living. And there's a few projects that I've been involved with. Like I said, I don't come from a very artistic background, so I never really cared so much about documenting or about doing so much in this way. But it's, yeah, it's my first experiences, and it's really exciting. And so my early career, I've been involved in diverse types of industries. I started as an electrician in a steel plant somewhere in Brazil, like a huge steel plant, actually the biggest in Latin America, and it's enormous, and it's another type of world where I was working with like melted steel in big furnaces and just maintaining electrical systems. It was quite straightforward, but at the same time it sparks you something, like you're just a little engine in this big organism that's just spitting out metal, and it kind of makes you question a bit of how this mechanism is working and what are the machines doing there and what the humans doing there. Especially it was a very old factory, and some lines they were modernized and some other lines were still very old, so I could still really pay attention to the processes, like the difference in the processes from each side of the factory. And that kind of made me curious about a few things, curious about the world in general, such that I didn't even speak English before. And then I learned English on my own, and then said, okay, got a job in the marine industry from a friend who worked there, and then I started to go into ships, and all kinds of ships working with the machinery, like the propellers. So yeah, I was saying that I got it from the steel industry. I got curious to the marine industry. I wanted to explore more. It was very simplistic sort of life in a very small city. And then I got into the ships, these big machines, just sailing across the Atlantic Ocean, mostly coast of Brazil, Caribbean, Africa. And it was 3 years living like that, totally like a lot of the time just inside of a ship. And it also created some more questions, some more things that I should go further, until I come to Germany, and then I look for a biotechnology company. They were looking for someone that was a specialist in mechatronics. And does everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Then I got into biotechnology, specifically with a company that was making scaffolds, bioscaffolds, and with polymer, PCL, and then seeding with fat later. So they were making all kinds of products. Their background was from making, in the university, they used to do a lot of bones. So you 3D print piece of a bone, and then you implant on a patient with the right proteins, and inject the bone cells inside, and the bone grow inside. And this company in Germany, this startup, was specializing in fat tissue. So they were doing like special applications for patients that had some defects or breasts. So they would 3D print the structure. If it's a breast, they would 3D print a matrix structure and seed it with cells later. And I was working there with the 3D printing systems, like specializing in especially making subsystems that would control the temperature and that would automate some of the functions around the 3D printers. And that was until this month, when I quit. And here are a few other projects that I've done along the way, very small projects that I didn't care so much of doing great documentation about them. This one was a collaboration in Berlin in 2016 with this designer, and she wanted some help to build some textiles, some smart textiles, and I could help her on the electronics, on a couple of circuitry behind the thing. The fabric was her own creation, but I helped the tests and made the circuits and calibration of the circuits to use this wire, which I forgot the name, this contracting wire on the textile. So we had a little temperature sensor that would open and close as the temperature moves. If it was normally 25 plus, we would open the textile. Less than that, we would close. We did some tests, play a little bit around.
Oh, it's like this nitinol, no? Like a master wire.
Yeah. Exactly, nitinol. We trained them in this little piece of wood, and then made sure that we were attaching them nicely to the textile. It was not so complicated, but it was quite fun, and that inspired me a lot to do more stuff with textiles later. Then I also did this project in Berlin. It was a friend's studio, and we wanted to build something to make an exhibition. And then I had this idea, or I wanted to make a kinetic sculpture. We were quite thrilled with the idea. And then I wanted to build something like a structure that was big and that would move around like a kinetic sculpture, but without the wind, because we didn't have it available. So build this thing here. It's like an hexagon made with cardan shafts in every vertex of the hexagon. If you see these poles like sideways, in the middle of them there is a hexagon, and this turns around itself, the vertexes, the sides of the hexagon, and then these poles would turn through the inside of the thing. It was not so easy to visualize with pictures, actually. So yeah, I built this thing, and it kind of worked, but it was quirky and it was self-destructive. Like, the whole machine worked, the principle was great, but it was a great a great lesson and kind of poetic as well. We used like hexagon shapes because of how the construction works nicely, and we had a nice motor attached to it, and I made all of the cardan shafts with a lot of care and make sure that they were kind of like working well with not so much clearance, and then put it all together. The whole machine worked like it was going to explode anytime, but it circled and it worked for enough for us to make a presentation. So it was quite fun as well. And this was one of the jobs I did for this company, which is something I can partially share here, because I think that the concept was rather poetic rather than just like means to an end. It was a simulation that we wanted to play around in the idea that what if we would do more of these scaffolds, more of these implants? What would we have to build? And then I say, yeah, we have to build a factory for body parts. And basically we would have a bunch of 3D printers aligned in a specific configuration and optimize the configuration of a robot going inside and picking the prints and doing parts of the mechanical tests and the post-processing of the prints. So we were working out on ways that we could actually do it. And even we can work with many type of tissues with these processes. So you can see here in the picture, it's a abstraction a little bit, but different tissues work with different patterns. But basically the idea is that you 3D print with a polymer a structure like you see here on the top right. And then you see this structure later either in the body or in the lab with cells. And then the cells are going to colonize the material, and then you're going to transform into something. You can do bone, you can do fat, you could do other things as well, but they get more and more complex. So we are entering already quite an edge of science where a lot of things are still in progress.
Is it like something you can do at home?
No. Mostly because of, I mean, if you can sample some cells from somewhere and you can actually keep a very sterile environment, is something you could do at home. But you could have all kinds of, I mean, it's not easy to let fat cells grow. Like they really need a very specific environment, and maybe in a bioreactor of some sort, but I'm not sure. We haven't tried.
So, like contaminations and all kinds of this, you say. Yeah.
Maybe it could be funny to grow something like, to 3D print kind of a body like that and use agar and colonize it with agar. It would be maybe very funny, and mushrooms, and then you create like a mushroom body part. That's up for the
mushroom leg.
Yes. That would be so funny. And here are some little pictures of the process, of the simulation process. I can't put a video of the whole thing because of the possible, I don't know, patented parts that are there. And there was a basic system where I put a UR robot to move around, pick these cartridges, because normally you don't print the stuff with filament. You have some cartridges with more purified material, and then the robot would exchange the cartridge in the printer, take the prints and store it for the clean of some plasma cleaning or gamma, I don't remember exactly, and it would pack it and send to some laboratory. It was seems quite common, but it's quite a spooky idea in the end. Then there's this new project that I'm coming up with, which I call it the post-human clade, like a natural group, sort of say, which is part of all of my interest to portray, to abstract what is this thing we're doing, what are we doing when we are interacting with technology in the ways we are interacting, creating new senses, playing around with like biosensors and even 3D printing body parts, and even embedding some electronics in this prints inside of our bodies. What is this leading to? And I don't want necessarily to go to an easy answer and say, oh, transhumanism, oh, this and that. I think there's something, we need to create myths around it. We need to use the power of tradition, the power of storytelling to kind of be able to create the right narratives that will guide us along the way. And this performance I'm using as a part of this system that I'm doing for Tribe Against the Machine. But it's basically, I'm using some IMUs and put a movement sensors around the body, a heart sensor, and possibly an EEG as well. And then I'm connecting this to the body and then doing some sonification with pure data, just getting the signals, using pure data to transform it to sound and visuals. And in this one specifically, I will play with the idea of an organism being born, a new clade. So I want to play with the layers of the brain. I want to find some pattern in the EEG, play with the patterns and say, what can I represent it as the more basic brain function? Actually, it's just more like regions, right? So mostly the first region of the brain is developed, and then it comes the second, and then the third. So I want to use the electrodes placed in specific regions, and then pick one part, signal from one region and the other, and then the other. This while moving around, it's gonna be the performance.
So there's like any logic behind this? It's like you know, it's like always like you need to invent like a language to describe like all these kind of things.
Well, there are some algorithms, like when it comes to other things like the IMU sensors and the heart sensor, it's much more clean signal. I mean, at least I can easily filter out the way I want. The EEG is kind of more complex in that manner. I have to use like some EEG algorithms which can do some specific function, or I just take the raw signal, put some filters around until it works the way I want. And it's not like a phenomenal control function, but it's only supposed to generate noise in music anyway.
It's not like a medical, you know. It's like not like medical language.
There is no. I'm just using. Actually, it's Arduino based, and I'm just using pure data, and then transforming it with pure data to a MIDI signal. I hope everything will be enough to do it, but there has been quite an advance in some EEG algorithms, especially with the OpenBCI community.
Oh yeah, I've seen that recently. It's looking very nice, but it's like very expensive, man. It's like too expensive.
Yes, it is. I was lucky that I got like this Ganglion for $100 at the time that they were kickstarting. So it's not too much. It's 4 channels, but yeah, you can play a little bit with 4 channels. But in any case, they are quite well advancing in this field. It's striving to play around only.
I also have been doing some performance like with this NeuroSky, you know, like at the start, like 5 years ago, that we had like this NeuroSky module, you know. So I tried also to play with it, but no, it's like
yeah, it's kind of tricky, but
finding your language, you know, and like all your conceptual stuff. And, yeah, it's nice.
Definitely. Yeah, I think there's nice angles to explore it, and at least to spread the word a little bit about brain science. And of course, functionally, you more like meditation tracking or some neurofeedback games.
Yeah, it's like a meditation or activation was until recently. I don't know what is going now.
Yeah, totally. I mean, unfortunately, I cannot use this for the Tribe Against the Machine project because it's not accessible, and I don't trust my ability to make it nice anytime next month. But at least it will work. So this, the way I'm doing this for the Tribe Against the Machine project, I'm just taking a little part of the system I'm developing for the performance and building it here. It's kind of like, I don't know if you can see it, but this is one sample of it. I just did it with this ESP board and this 6 degrees of freedom IMU, and it's working. I need to still work on the pure data code to put the way I want and make a nice design. Right?
You use pure data?
Yes, I use pure data. It could be also Max MSP, right? But I just don't have experience with it.
No, pure data are the best.
We could work something out. I remember that you were saying that you wanted to use Max MSP on a project.
Now mostly I'm doing sonification, like something, yeah, video, audio, visuals at the moment.
Nice. So here, I also came through the meaning, which the last 5 questions that you presented to us. I just wanted to put them here in context because I saw it later. And to go through the meaning of this that we are creating, that we are integrating. And I think all of these questions, they converge definitely in the project we are doing together. And I really think that the answer to all of these questions embedded together is that we create our tales, our narratives, that we create our myths based on tradition, and that there is some commonality between traditions and myths. And we use those patterns to try to create our own narrative, that we embed this technology with these textiles in this platform. The way we are going to do it, it's quite an interesting one because we are quite differently spread around the world. But I read a bit about the Joseph Campbell and what the background, the myths have in common. And I think that we will be able to create some narratives and to use a little bit of this tradition to go further in this project. This system is quite simple. There will be a simple drawing later, but it's extremely simple. Just this microcontroller receiving this analog signal from the pulse sensor and a few IMUs, possibly 3, because I think that when you want to use movement sensors to sound, to do a sonification with movement sensors, you want to have some reference that you could actually, it could be totally random. I could have non-symmetrically spread the movement sensors in the body. However, I think if we do this symmetrically and we use one of these movement sensors in the torso and 2 in the arms, for example, as one moves around, we can use a more lower sound frequency for the torso and a higher sound frequency for the arms in such a way that the performer moves. You actually hear it moves, he or she, and you can actually like start after a while you can start to hear the movement and understand what is this that you are hearing. And if you just spread these movement sensors symmetrically in the body, the pattern will become an understandable pattern at some point. And this is what the concept I'm finding really interesting.
You mean visual pattern or audio pattern?
Sound, yeah, audio.
Yeah, cool.
Visual could be totally could be, but since it's the same medium, like
yeah, but audio is cooler, I think.
And also combined with the pulse sensor, it gives some quite interesting results because you can actually like, as the performer is moving around or this person is moving around, you can detect how fast this the pulse is, and you can actually transfer this to the sound and actually like paste the music, the BPMs or something, which can pass the right message. Perhaps it can be a performance for someone who doesn't have a vision to hear this person moving around. And just a basic circuit, which I sourced at around €9 per unit. It can be cheaper, but that's the configuration. Just a I2C, I2C signal going to the microcontroller and a pulse sensor. And this thing on the left is how I believe that what I believe we are doing. We are merging two different worlds. We are merging two different organisms in one that can acquire meaning. And when it acquires meaning, it transmits much more information, a bit information theory patterned, not at all scientific what I'm saying, but it's when we create these systems and put it together and we are actually transmitting these messages, these meanings inside, we actually transform the amount of messages, the amount of information we can carry in this project. And collaborations, yeah, please. These are the areas that I'm interested about. I'm a bit of a post-human explorations in the philosophies of that. I'm reading a little bit about myths and tradition as well. Rituals of passage are very interesting for me as a tools for psychological transformation. And performances, definitely want to explore a bit remote performances particularly, and how to collaborate through remote performances, like real-time systems. I've seen some very interesting things done in live streaming. And self-sufficiency and equal autonomy, which I think are also very interesting things. It's not my focus today here in the project, but it's something I will be doing in the next couple of months when I get back home in Brazil, like to grow a bit of food and just to be a bit more self-sufficient in nature. I think all of these things, they can come together very nicely, because the time that we are living today, it requires us not only to think about our own needs as humans. Food security, for example, it's something that seems really trivial, but it's something that is still extremely sensitive, and we could very easily get disrupted in this area. So I think it's quite interesting for us to look back and look forward. And we can actually learn a little bit about growing food, a little bit about security, and then using these narratives to kind of create a future that makes sense and that we will not really depend on the biggest corporations to sustain our meta systems of living. And that is pretty much it. My calendar here in October, I'm doing this performance, and they're gonna be a live stream probably, or just a recording. Let's see how it's working. And in November, I will be just doing urban farming in Brazil with a couple of friends. So far, that's it. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think, yeah, that's it from me.
Where in Brazil are you gonna be? Like which part?
Right now, I'm in Germany.
No, but you say you're going back to Brazil.
I will be going back to Brazil in 1 week, or I think it's 2 weeks.
But where in Brazil?
Oh, it's near Rio. It's a small city called Pinheiral. It's between Rio and São Paulo. And I grew up in this place and I come back there.
Okay, so your things, what you are doing are, how to say, almost relevant to all the topics we are interested in. I mean, to combine the traditions and technology and explore how to connect these two things. And me personally, I was interested in how to measure awareness, but I didn't do a good research. Yeah, and then I'm also go into agriculture. So I don't know.
It's kind of funny that we really like and really interested in this very broad aspects that goes back to food and plants, and also at the same time embedding technology. And however, I think it's possible to create a narrative that you actually have a lot of power for both. Yes, I'm really looking forward for the collaborations, especially in unexpected areas.
Yes, thank you. Yeah,
Yes.